Hi guys, welcome to the third part of Unit 3 for Culture, which is going to be on religion. So the big ideas we are going to cover is religion's role in society, secularism, the difference between monotheistic, polytheistic, and animistic, the diffusion of religions, the major world religions, the hearths of religions, religious landscapes, and religious conflicts. What is religion? According to geographers, religion is a system of beliefs and practices that attempts to order life in terms of culturally perceived ultimate priorities. So, should people explain and how they and others should behave based on their religious beliefs? It's a binding force in societies, especially those less dominated by technology. Also, religions change over time and have been adopted across cultural barriers and language boundaries. Religion's role in society differs. In some countries, it practically constitutes culture. Religion manifests itself in different ways. The worship of souls of ancestors and living natural objects, the belief that certain living persons possess capabilities granted by a supernatural power, and the belief in a deity or deities. In Western industrialized, urbanized societies, religion has become subordinate to secular culture and government. The effect on culture. Good life has rewards and bad behavior risks punishment, controlling individual behavior. Also, modes of dress acceptable and foods a person can or cannot eat can be dictated by religion. Commercial practices as well as location and structure of houses. Secularism is the indifference to or rejection of formal religion. Most secular countries are found in Europe today. And here's just a little survey of the people in Europe and how important religion is to their lives. Only 13% of people in France said that religion is important. In Sweden, it's only 8%. In the Czech Republic, it's only 7%. So most people in Europe today are secular. So even if your society is secular, and regardless of your religious beliefs, what you eat, when you work, when you shop, what you're allowed to do are all influenced by religion, even if you personally don't believe in it. Despite the wide variety of religions found around the world, they are commonly classified into three categories based on their approaches to the concept of divinity. Monotheistic religions worship a single deity, a god or Allah. Polytheistic worship more than one deity, even up to the thousands. Animistic, centered on the belief that inanimate objects such as mountains, boulders, rivers, and trees possess spirits and should be revered. Throughout much of human history, virtually all religions were either animistic, polytheistic, or both. Approximately 3,500 years ago, monotheistic religions started to develop in Southwest Asia. One of the oldest is Zoroastrianism. You should absolutely know this map. You need to know where the major world religions down to the branch, meaning you should know where Catholics are versus Protestants versus Eastern Orthodox versus Sunni Muslims versus Shia Muslims, as well as these other religions too. This is a very, very important map. Make sure you know it. Religions diffuse through all the different types of diffusion. So expansion, including both contagious and hierarchical, as well as relocation. With either of these, leaders or followers interact with people who do not espouse the religion. Sometimes it does lead to conversion, people adopting the religion. Spatial interaction occurs because of migration, missionary efforts, and even conquest. Any map of world religions is a generalization. Caution must be used when making observations from the map. Mask minority religions, many of which have significant number of followers. Some of the regions shown as belonging to a particular religion are places where faiths have penetrated relatively recently. Each of the widespread religions share in one characteristic. They are all universalizing, meaning they're actively seeking converts because they view themselves as offering belief systems of universal appropriateness and appeal. So here's a more basic map of the breakdown of religion in terms of Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, the Chinese religions, Korean religions, Shinto, folk religions, and then no religion. You should definitely know the hearths of the major world religions. So we're going to start with the hearth of South Asia. The largest religion that started in South Asia is Hinduism, and it's the third largest religion after Christianity and Islam. Depends on kind of your thought process and who you ask whether Hinduism is monotheistic or polytheistic. Many Western education systems teach that it's polytheistic because there are lots of different deities. However, that's really not a correct representation of Hinduism because all of the different deities are aspect of a single deity. And so really the best kind of correct answer for what Hinduism is polymorphic monotheism, meaning many forms of one God. It is, though, definitely an ethnic religion, which means it appeals primarily to one group of people living in one place. It does not actively seek converts. It is the oldest continuously practiced religion in the world, dates back over 4,000 years, older than writing, so we don't know exactly who the founder is. They do have sacredness in terms of text in the Vedas, and the main kind of belief system is based around karma as well as dharma, and the doctrines are closely tied to the Indian society's caste system of the past. The second religion you need to know that originated in South Asia is Buddhism. Buddhism splintered from Hinduism over 2,500 years ago, and the reaction to questions about Hinduism's teachings. It began with the founder, Siddhartha Gautama, who becomes known as the Buddha. He preached salvation could be attained by anyone. Knowledge, elimination of greed, craving, and desire, complete honesty, and never hurting another person or animal was the way to reach salvation. The various branches have an estimated 347 million adherents, Mahayana and Theravada claiming most adherents. It is a universalizing religion, meaning it appeals to lots of different groups of people. However, it's non-evangelical, meaning that they don't typically send out missionaries trying to convert you. But if you want to convert, they're happy to have you. So Hinduism migrated from present-day Pakistan which was along the Indus River Valley, to today mainly being around the Ganges River. It diffused throughout South Asia and into Southeast Asia. It first attached itself to traditional faiths and then slowly replaced them. Over the last 2 centuries, it's also spread through migration. During colonialism, relocation diffused to various British colonies. Today, we see a large migration of people from South Asia coming to places like the United States. So again, that would be relocation diffusion. Buddhism first spread due to Emperor Ashoka. He sent missionaries to different peoples and spread as far south as Sri Lanka. Later advanced to the Mediterranean, Tibet, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So today, Buddhism is mainly found in Southeast and East Asia, even though it started in South Asia. And it changed as it grew and is strongly regional with very different forms of it in different places. So the second hearth of religion we're going to talk about is the Huanghe River Valley in China. So Taoism is one of the ethnic religions of China, and the beginnings are unclear. They trace the religion to older contemporary of Confucius, and it focuses on the proper form of political rule and on the oneness of humanity and nature. It gave rise to the concept of feng shui. Nothing should be done to nature without consulting the geomancers. Virtues are simplicity, spontaneity, tenderness, and tranquility. Also that war should be avoided. What's a common kind of thread throughout the ethnic Chinese religions is it's really more about philosophies on how to live life while you're here and less about worshiping a god or gods. So Confucianism addresses the traditional Chinese tenets that include the belief in heaven and the existence of the soul. It also has to do with ancestor worship, sacrificial rites, and shamanism, and held that the meaning of life lay in the present. Service to one's fellow human should supersede service to spirits. So again, this is mainly a philosophy of life. had great and lasting impacts and still does on Chinese life, and revered as a spiritual leader after his death, but again, not a deity. Confucianism diffused throughout East and Southeast Asia and has long influenced the practice of Buddhism in many places. Diffusion within China has been tempered by government efforts to suppress religion, ever since China became a communist country which favors atheism. Both, though, are so entrenched in Chinese culture that government initiatives have not had the desired effect. More recently, Chinese immigrants expanded influence in parts of Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America through relocation diffusion. Shintoism is the ethnic religion of Japan, and it focuses particularly on nature and ancestor worship, so it is an animistic religion. The next hearth of religion we're going to talk about is in the Eastern Mediterranean. So the first religion to come out of this part of the Middle East that you should know is Judaism, which is definitely a monotheistic religion, so just a belief in one God. It's also an ethnic religion, meaning you're really just born into it. It grew out of a belief system of the Jews about 4,000 years ago, and the founder of Judaism would be Abraham. So it's not limited to contiguous territories, and it's distributed throughout parts of the Middle East and North Africa, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and parts of North and South America, mainly because of the Jewish diaspora. The only country where this religion, though, is the majority is in the country of Israel today, and that's because of the Zionist movement. So the three branches of Judaism that there are today is the Reform branch, the Orthodox branch, and the Conservative branch. So again, the Jewish diaspora happened about 2,000 years ago when the Romans kicked the Jews out of what is today Israel. And then Zionism is this idea starting in the 1800s that the Jews should move back to Israel, which really culminates in 1948 when the newly created UN creates the country of Israel, originally supposed to be two countries, Israel and Palestine. Many Jews have moved to Israel after the establishment, and we have seen that continue. Today, the Jews of the world are mainly kind of split in two places, 40% in the US and 40% in Israel. The second religion to come out of the Eastern Mediterranean, this area of the Middle East, traces back to the same hearth as Judaism. And in the same way that Siddhartha Gautama was born into Hinduism, Jesus, the founder of Christianity, was born into Judaism. And the teachings hold that Jesus was placed on earth to teach people to live according to God's plan. Christianity considers itself to be monotheistic, but honestly, you could put it in that same category with Hinduism in that it's really more polymorphic monotheistic because they believe in this holy trinity of Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God. It is definitely universalizing, and it is the largest universalizing religion in the world. There are three major branches, the largest of which is the oldest branch, Roman Catholicism. Then the second largest is the Protestant branch and Eastern Orthodox. So you should know where all those are located as well. Christianity really diffuses through all the different types of diffusion. Expansion diffusion combined with relocation. So Christianity declined in Western Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Contagious diffusion, as religious ideas spread from coastal Ireland and Scotland throughout Western Europe. And then with the Eastern Orthodox, contagious diffusion from the religion's hearth in Constantinople, which is today Istanbul, to north and northeast. Protestantism, contagious diffusion in several parts because of missionary works, also hierarchical into Northern and Central Europe as political leaders converted. Worldwide diffusion occurring because of relocation diffusion during European colonization, and has always been characterized by aggressive and persistent proselytization, this attempt to convert people to their beliefs. So the youngest of the major religions is Islam. It's the second largest religion to Christianity, again started in the Middle East, very monotheistic. They trace their back to a single founder, which his name was Muhammad, and he is just a prophet, meaning that Muslims, who are people who follow the religion of Islam, do not worship Muhammad. He is just a prophet. They only worship Allah, which just means God. And it follows the same storyline for the most part of the Judeo-Christian faith, meaning the belief in Abraham, the belief in Noah and the Great Flood, even Jesus is a prophet in Islam. They also believe in something called the Five Pillars, which includes the pilgrimage to Mecca at least once during their lifetime, prayer 5 times a day, almsgiving, fasting during the month of Ramadan. All of these are part of these 5 pillars. And there are 2 major branches, Sunni and Shia. So you need to know that most Muslims, over 80% of the world's Muslims, are Sunni, and then Shia or Shiites are mainly concentrated in and around the country of Iran. So early on, Islam really mainly spreads through hierarchical diffusion. These converted Arabian kings utilized armies to spread faith across the Arabian Peninsula and diffuse throughout North Africa that way as well. Also later through trade, so this would be expansion diffusion across the Indian Ocean, and then more recently through relocation diffusion as people have migrated into Europe and South Africa and the Americas. Indigenous religions mainly have reverence for nature, pass through family units and groups or tribes of indigenous people. There's no central tenet or belief. They're grouped because they share the same pressures from diffusion and global religions. Shamanism is a community faith in which people follow their shaman, their religious leader. This has appeared at various times to various people in Africa, Native America, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. It is a traditional religion. So religious landscapes are very important, and marks of cultural landscapes with houses of worship, cemeteries, icons, stores for religious goods, sacred sites. A pilgrimage is an act of voluntary travel to a religious or sacred site, and most religions have pilgrimages. The largest and most famous, though, is again with Islam and the Hajj, which is the trip to Mecca. So some other sacred sites include Jerusalem, which has pilgrimages for all 3 of those monotheistic religions, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Hinduism and Buddhism, pilgrimages follow prescribed routes. So for Hinduism, there's specific temples and shrines that are sacred to different groups. Buddhism, mainly places where Siddhartha Gautama, things happened during his life, like the Bodhi tree where he reached enlightenment. For Christianity, it's churches, cathedrals, or monasteries. And then another thing you should know about is a little bit about the architecture of these various things. So you should know that minarets are those towers that are on the sides of mosques. You should know that the Kaaba is in the center of the Grand Mosque in Mecca, and that is actually what all Muslims are praying towards. The religion has caused conflict within religions and between different religions, and it usually involves more than differences in spiritual practices and beliefs. So this can function as a symbol of a wider set of cultural and political differences. So there are interfaith boundaries, these boundaries between the world's major faiths, and subject to potentially divisive cultural forces, particularly when people see their religious differences as a source of social division in their country. Also, we have intra-faith boundaries, boundaries within a single major faith. This includes the boundaries between Christian Protestants and Christian Catholics, or Muslim Sunnis and Muslims Shiites. So there are certain places that have been and currently still continue to be hotspots of religious conflict. Jerusalem being really kind of the best example of mainly between Muslims and Jews, the Palestinians and the Israelis. We also see this in Nigeria, where it's a predominantly Muslim north and Christian south. In Yugoslavia, between Muslims, Eastern Orthodox, and Roman Catholic Christians. In Ireland, with Northern Ireland mainly being Protestant and the Republic of Ireland predominantly being Catholic. And then another term you should know is religious fundamentalism, which is born out of frustration over a perceived breakdown of society's morals and values, the lack of religious authority, failure to achieve economic goals, etc. We've seen an increase in religious fundamentalism in the last 30 years. This holds religious beliefs as non-negotiable and uncompromising, and globalization has really contributed to this. Religious extremism has also increased, this fundamentalism which is carried to the extreme, and it happens in all religions. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, even Buddhism has issues with extremism. So that finishes it up for culture. Again, I want you guys to make sure you understand this is not everything that you need to know. This was just the big overview of what you should know for Unit 3. Thank you.